Hello and welcome to this it's exploring of character workshop session. This is a character session where we continue our work on Gorboduc, a play we've done a full read-through exploring session of in the past, and we're looking ahead now to turning this into some kind of performance. We're not quite sure which. We're thinking at the moment all of the things for Gorboduc, because it's a play that continues to reward the more we look at it. And today we're looking specifically at the character of Gorboduc himself. He appears in only a few scenes. He doesn't turn up that often in the play of his own name, unless, of course, you're going by the alternative title of Ferrex and Porrex, in which case he's not the title character, and it sort of feels fine. So I say we're going to be going through Gorboduc in various different ways. We're going to try and dig deep into his speeches, and in the first scene, he has 3 quite lengthy speeches, and afterwards he has a few more, and it gets a little more breaky-uppy as it goes. And we're going to get a sense of how this works and see how it goes. To read Gorboduc in various different voices today is, first up, Stephen will be reading Gorboduc. Stephen, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm a scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
And next up after will be Liza, who will also be Gorboduc.
Hi, Liza Graham, General Theatre Bod, London.
And also being Gorboduc later on will be...
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm from Stratford-on-Avon.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will not be Gorboduc, and neither will be my wife. So we will... So to give a little bit of context, once you're in Gorboduc, the play itself opens with a dumb show demonstrating the breaking of sticks by wild men clothed in leaves. We then have an opening scene with Gorboduc's wife, Videnna, and their son, Ferrex, who are worrying about what the king is about to do. And this scene is very much a question of what is the king going to do, about who takes over from him in the foreseeable future or anon. We're going to start just with the first speech of Gorboduc, and I'm going to ask Stephen to read that. So let's see. He opens the scene. He's surrounded by his 3 noble counsellors, and he says thus.
My lords, whose grave advice and faithful aid have long upheld my honour and my realm, brought me to this age from tender years, guiding so great a state with great renown. Now more importeth me than erst to use your faith and wisdom whereby yet I reign. But when by death my life and rule shall cease, the kingdom yet may with unbroken course have certain prince, by whose undoubted right your wealth and peace may stand in quiet stay. And eke that they whom nature hath prepared in time to take my place in princely seat, while in their father's time their pliant youth yields to the frame of skilful governance, may so be taught and trained in noble arts as what their fathers, which have reigned before, have with great fame derived down to them. With honour they may leave unto their seed, and not be thought for their unworthy life and for their lawless swerving out of kind worthy to lose what law and kind them gave, but that they may preserve the common peace, the cause that first began and still maintains the lineal course of kings' inheritance, for me, for mine, for you, and for the state, whereof both I and you have charge and care. Thus do I mean to use your wonted faith to me and mine and to your native land. My lords, be plain, without all wry respect or poisonous craft, to speak in pleasing wise, lest as the blame of ill-succeeding things shall light on you, so light the harms also.
So that's the opening speech, which we just essayed there to get a sense of what's going on. What are we getting immediately out of Gorboduc's first speech? He's got his 3 counsellors there. What's he asking for? Where is the tone? Do we have any initial thoughts before we dive a little deeper?
Reading it was really difficult because it's just this humongous sentence, and you've no way of knowing where you're going because there's sort of sub-clauses embedded in there, you know. So you think you're going to be saying something, I don't know, a warning, and then you spend 3 or 4 lines talking about something else. And so kind of just the technical stuff is quite difficult to grasp, I think. And so that would be, you know, for a production, I think, you know, the cold reading reveals, you know, just how much you need to know what you're saying before you say it.
Any other initial thoughts before we go back over that again with a different voice, just to see what additional layers we can start digging out of it? We'll stop and start with the next voice. It's interesting. I certainly find the end of it is there's something interesting that might be dug out there. My lords, be plain without all wry respect, or poisonous craft to speak in pleasing wise. Be you know, be clear with me. There's something here, I think, about the context where we're in. All the people around him who are about to debate with him and put forward their case, and we'll see where that will go. Though to a degree you won't, because we won't be doing their speeches. Liza, do you have any thoughts at this time? You're muted at the moment.
Good catch. Really, just that because this is a character and story establishing speech, just the need for clarity. And I believe Stephen did read with wonderfully clear, even with all those subclauses, which an actor could easily get lost in. It's, allowing the subclauses their place, but establishing where the through line is. It is long. It is extremely intellectual with a capital I, and the more rhetorical it gets, the less it sounds like something a human being would actually say.
I wonder if pacing it might be more important than usual here, because I think I started trying to be sort of all kingly and measured, and it might pick up a bit if you just sort of whiz through it a bit more.
When you're the highest status character on stage, you can afford not to rush unless you're in a high emotional state. But we could try it. But we could try it in music. If this were a song, what I would say is it's less a case of tempo than of legato, than of just thinking through the phrase to the full stop.
Yes, the problem is finding a full stop.
There isn't a full stop. Where's the first full stop?
It's about 6 lines to the end of the speech.
In period pronunciation, you may count a semicolon.
Okay.
Yes, you've got 4 lines then.
A colon or a semicolon, which aren't quite the same as a full stop, but we may count them as such.
Yeah. Liza, in that case, let's ask you to read the speech. We'll stop and start a bit this time, if that's okay.
Sure, the same speech.
Same speech. Let's get a sense of how this scene is opening, and we'll ask more questions about Gorbadoc's character. Just sort of start trying to dig down on what he's actually saying.
Cool. My lords, whose grave advice and faithful aid have long upheld mine honour and my realm, and brought me to this age from tender years, guiding so great a state with great renown, now more importeth me than erst to use your faith and wisdom, whereby yet I reign, that when by death my life and rule shall cease, the kingdom yet may with unbroken course have certain prince, by whose undoubted right your wealth and peace may stand in quiet stay, and eke that they whom nature hath prepared in time to take my place in princely seat, while in their father's time their pliant youth yields to the frame of skilful governance, may so be taught and trained in noble arts, as what their fathers which have reigned before have with great fame derived down to them, with honour they may leave unto their seed, and not be thought for their unworthy life, and for their lawless swerving out of kind, worthy to lose what law and kind them gave, but that they may preserve the common peace, the cause that first began, and still maintains the lineal course of king's inheritance, for me, for mine, for you, and for the state, whereof both I and you have charge and care. Thus do I mean to use your wonted faith to me and mine, and to your native land. My lords, be plain, without all wry respect or poisonous craft to speak in pleasing wise, lest as the blame of ill succeeding things shall light on you, so light the harms also.
I was going to stop and start you, but I think, I mean, the giving it a bit more impetus works. I think maybe not for the very, very opening and the very, very close. That was the only point where I felt, no, it needs to pull back. But on just a sort of technical level, it did seem to, the sense, weirdly, by being faster, the sense comes across better in that sense, or it seemed to, or maybe just I've heard it twice now.
It's kind of you. I mean, I think Stephen read it very well at the start too. What I did was find myself speeding up a little when there were subclauses that I think of as parenthetical. Giles Block at the Globe calls them pop-ups. So, for example, that first sentence, "My lords," and then there's a parenthesis before "whose," and then. And the parenthesis closes after renown. So if you left out the subclause, it would be, "My lords, now more importeth me than erst to use your faith and wisdom, whereby yet I reign," is another parenthetical, that when by death my life and rule shall cease. So that's the important bit. But I take your point that maybe at setting out, you establish a bit of a more stately pace so that you then have somewhere to go when you speed up.
Yeah, that grave advice and faithful aids, it's setting the scene and setting who they are to him as well. I think that's quite important. It's giving us an impression of how old they might be. I mean, I don't know if grave advice necessarily means they're old, but it just sort of implies that a bit. Have long upheld my honour and my reign. So, you know, Gorboduc and them have been at this for a while. I mean, we haven't decided how old Goubadok is.
Yes, brought me to this age from tender years. But
yes.
he has his sons are adults, right? I mean, his sons are young adults.
Yeah, we've had this debate with the when we were reading it earlier. They could have been young. I don't think we decided. There was a debate about how young they were and whether they aged during the course of the play. I think by the end of it, we came to the conclusion, yes, they're young adults. But I think that was the debate we had.
I think we went sort of not much later than early 20s, if they were at all. Yeah.
So, any thoughts about who Gorboduc himself is? His speech doesn't really give us much to go on.
It doesn't tell us who he is. It tells us a bit about what he wants.
And you know, and that sense of, you know, there's going to be somebody else, you know, who their succession issues of succession. It doesn't tell us anything about who his family is either, really. It's
I guess it implies a little bit that he's worried about how his sons might turn out. And he says that while they're, while in their father's time their pliant youth yields to the frame, while they're still young enough to be taught things. And when people start, I mean, in our culture, when people start worrying about what's going to come after them, they're usually around 40-ish. If you're an early modern guy, it might well happen at a different time in your life.
Yes, excellent. So let's look for more evidence as we try and figure out more about Gorboduc. We don't really have enough clues yet to be saying how we'd play this scene. Stephen, could you read Aristus, the next speech coming up, and then Greg, if you could read Gorbadoc's big speech coming up after that. So Gorboduc has, asked them for their advice, or at least their. At this stage, he hasn't asked them what to advise him on precisely. Just to be honest, he's just asked his counsellors to speak to him plainly.
Your good acceptance, so, most noble king, of such your faithfulness as heretofore we have employed in duties to your grace, and to this realm whole worthy head you are, well proves that neither mistrust at all, nor we shall need in boasting wise to show our truth to you, nor yet our wakeful care for you, for yours, and for our native land. Wherefore, O king, I speak for one as all, sith all as one do bear you equal faith, doubt not to use their counsels and their aids, whose honours, goods, and lives are whole avowed to serve, to aid, and to defend your grace.
My lords, I thank you all. This is the case, the gods, who have the sovereign care for kings, for kingdoms, and for commonweals, gave me 2 sons in my more lusty age, who now in my deceiving years are grown well towards riper state of mind and strength, to take it in hands and greater princely charges, yet they live and spend their hopeful days. With me and with their mother here in court, their age now asketh other place and trade, and mine also doth ask another change. Theirs to more travail, mine to greater ease. When fatal death shall end my mortal life, my purpose is to leave unto them twain the realm divided into 2 sundry parts. The one Ferrex, mine elder son, shall have, the other shall the other Porrex rule, that both my purpose may more firmly stand, and eke that they may better rule their charge, I mean forthwith to place them in the same, that in my life they may both learn to rule, and I may joy to see their ruling well. This is in the sum what I would have ye weigh. First, whether you allow my whole device and think it good for me, for them, for you, and for our country, mother of us all. And if ye like it and allow it well, then for their guiding and their governance, show forth such means of circumstance as ye think meet to be both known and kept. Lo, this is all. Now tell me your advice.
In a moment, they will do. So we're getting more evidence as to him and his concerns as he's talking about his family life and what he's planning to do. And of course, this is a big thing that he's throwing out into the court, and he's going to be hoping that everyone's going to be terribly honest with him. It's interesting how Aristus is. He's not quite fawning, but he's he's being very dutiful. Everything's perhaps on an even keel at court until Gorboduc says what he's about to say. There should be a colon at the end of the first line. This is the case. So thoughts about Gorboduc. There's a few other minor issues in there as well, but we won't worry about them at the moment.
He's definitely more advanced in years. Because that wonderful, I lost the line again.
Deceiving years?
Yes, that's it, thank you.
I like that too.
Yeah,
well you've got a word choice there as well, because you have the alternative of decaying as well as an option.
Ooh.
So you can have decaying years, depending on the corruption of the text. Deceiving may be accurate from an earlier draft, or it may be just a bad printing, because there are 2 versions. So as far as I'm concerned, choose which one you like. Decaying is very marked. His riper state of mind and strength.
Decaying does form a nice antithesis with riper, but at the same time, I really like deceiving years. That's a very good way of describing middle age.
Yes. How did I end up being this age? I don't remember time passing this fast. Yeah, I like deceiving for that as well.
I was wondering about the verse, in the sense that it strikes me as being extremely regular, except when it isn't. And what the line that jumped out at me, but there is another one, is the realm divided into two sundry parts, where that iambic pentameter, or the pentameter, just completely, the gears completely crash. And there's to more travail, mine to greater ease is another one. So you're sort of going through it, you know. The age now asketh other place and trade, and mine also doth ask another change. There's to more travail, mine to... It stumbles there, but when fatal death shall end my mortal life, you know, so what they're doing, they really are padding it to hit the verse, fatal death. The fatal death shall end my mortal life. My purpose is to leave unto them twain the realm divided into two sundry parts.
Ooh, it would be interesting to see an Ortex, to see a quarter or something, to see if there could be a justification for the realm divided into sundry parts, or into sundry.
I will have just a quick look in my edition, see if there's any note on that, because I have noticed errors I thought I'd corrected, so I'm slightly confused at the moment as to some things. There is definitely an additional verse later on which we can remove.
I also think of travail as with an emphasis on the first syllable, which helps even out the verse in that line.
You've still got a sort of caesura in the middle, though, haven't you? You've got to pause. There's to more travail. I don't know, actually. I would sort of chop that in the middle. But
has anyone else seen a Doctor Who-based comedy sketch? I think it was a Children in Need special one year.
What, The Curse of Fatal Death?
The Curse of Fatal Death! Yes.
A sofa of reasonable comfort.
Really?
Yes. We have to get at least one science fiction reference in every session. That's fine. I'm wondering if certainly it's something that's playable, because perhaps there is an awkwardness about saying this, that this isn't
That's my
thing
point,
you do.
Yeah, there seems to be some care given to make it really regular and flow very nicely. Probably because you've got these sort of long clauses, so you don't want the clauses then starting to stutter. But I just wonder, because it seems that these are two important points where the rhythm kind of doesn't quite flow as it has been.
There's almost like there might be if not a full pause, but little there might be some beats in there that you can play, and it's different. To that first speech, which is very roundabout. It's quite difficult to latch onto what he's saying in that opening speech, whereas this is not only clear, it's full of repetition to make it clear that you've got it clear, so you definitely know what he's saying. So it's almost like he's done the warm-up, but he's unsure of what he wants, how far he wants. He's obviously thought about this perhaps for a long time, and now he's there, and it takes him a speech and a half to really, really go for it.
I think one thing the verse is also doing here is giving him authority, that it is very measured, and the lines are very end-stopped. And end-stopped lines are one way that sometimes a verse writer will convey status.
Mm-hmm. And also it's not it not only end stops, sentences stop. I mean, it's the fundamental are different. The last speech was basically one long sentence, whereas this is a series of beats. Stephen, could you go over that speech again? I'm wondering also about Aristus's relationship to Gorboduc. Is it almost like maybe he's in the know and he's sort of going, come on, you can do it, my lord. I don't know if that's an excessive viewpoint, but maybe he needs the encouragement to say what he's... How infirm are we making Gorboduc? I'm starting to make him completely useless.
I couldn't help thinking with the first speech of Hopkins, who did a fantastic old man fairly recently, and he was the best thing I've ever seen, I think, because he gave that sort of sense of just mind not quite all there all the time, and he never knew when he was going off topic and staying on topic. And, I wonder if something like that, this is to sort of inflect a possibility that Liza raised there. The fact that it is so measured and in control might be played against, the way the actual character is presenting. It could be quite an achievement to come out with this because some kind of frailty, perhaps.
So yes, let's run that speech again. This time with Stephen reading Gorboduc. Don't be afraid to stop and start, and play around with that. And I'll just give you a little cue line in to give you a sense. Wherefore, O King, I speak for one, as all sith all as one do bear you equal faith. Doubt not to use our counsels and their aids, whose honours, goods, and lives are whole avowed to serve, to aid, and to defend your grace.
My lords, I thank you all. This is the case. We know the gods, who had the sovereign care for kings, for kingdoms, and for commonweals, gave me 2 sons in my more lusty age, who now in my deceiving years are grown well towards riper state of mind and strength, take in hand some greater princely charge, as yet they live and spend their hopeful days with me and with their mother here in court. Their age now asketh other place and trade, and mine also doth ask another change. Theirs to more travail, mine to greater ease. When fatal death shall end my mortal life, my purpose is to leave unto them twain the realm divided into 2 sundry parts. The one, Ferex, mine eldest son, shall have, the other shall the other Porrex rule, that both my purpose may more firmly stand, and eke that they may better rule their charge. I mean, forthwith to place them in the same, that in my life they may both learn to rule, and I may joy to see their ruling well. This is in the sum, what I would have you weigh. First, whether you allow my whole device and think it good for me, for them, for you, and for our country, mother of us all. And if ye like it and allow it well, then for their guiding and their governance, show forth such means of circumstance as ye think meet to be both known and kept. This is all. Now, tell me your advice.
There's a lot in there I like. There's a lot in there also. I wonder if we take the idea too far. It is interesting. How weak do we make Gorboduc? In presentation. I'm wondering if he's not that far gone. But no, I'm not sure. It's a really interesting question that we've got another speech to get through. I mean, it's also thinking about what's happening in the room around him, because the moment you say the realm divided into two sundry parts, well, we've got three people in the room who are going to have three different reactions to that. And it's the question of how aware are you of their reaction to what you say. If you are slightly conscious of the controversy that you're about to release, then maybe you are looking at them very pointedly as you're saying this. Is this a challenge to agree or disagree? And you're saying, I want to hear your thoughts. Is that true? Do you actually want to hear their thoughts, or do you just want them to tell you what you want to hear? I pose these not as questions necessarily to be answered yet, but anyone want to dive in on any of those? Or other thoughts?
Well, it does depend on directorial decisions, really, doesn't it? The speech itself gives you different directions you can take it.
How cynical do we want to be?
Yeah.
Okay, so we move to the final piece of evidence from this scene for stuff what Gorboduc says. What we've had in the text is we've had three massive speeches from your three councillors, who are, broadly speaking, one's in favour of it, one's in favour of it but not yet, and the other one's not too keen. Nobody really quite goes for the idea, or totally goes against the idea. I don't think anyone totally goes for it, apart from Aristus, I think, might go for it. Either way, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to say what you're going to say anyway. I don't know that you're necessarily listening actively to what they've said before, because I don't know that you change any of your plans from any of their advice. And for this exercise, it doesn't matter. So, Liza, if I could ask you to read the I Take Your Faithful Hearts and play around with that and see what comes out.
All right. I take your faithful hearts in thankful part, but sith I see no cause to draw my mind, to fear the nature of my loving sons, or to misdeem that envy or disdain can their work hate where nature planteth love. In one self-purpose do I still abide. My love extendeth equally to both. My land sufficeth for them both also. Humber shall part the marches of their realms. The southern part the elder shall possess. The northern shall Porrex, the younger, rule. In quiet I will pass mine aged days, free from the travail and the painful cares that hasten age upon the worthiest kings. But lest the fraud that ye do seem to fear of flattering tongues corrupt their tender youth, and writhe them to the ways of youthful lust, to climbing pride, or to revenging hate, or to neglecting of their careful charge, lewdly to live in wanton recklessness, or to oppressing of the rightful cause, or not to wreak the wrongs done to the poor, to tread down truth, or favor false deceit, I mean to join either of my sons, some one of those whose long approved faith and wisdom tried may well assure my heart, that mining fraud shall find no way to creep into their fenced ears with grave advice. This is the end. And so I pray you all to bear my sons the love and loyalty that I have found within your faithful breasts.
Also, I'm very wrong. There is something of a concession to what has been said midway. So that is perhaps unfair. He makes his ruling and then concedes, which I think is a very kingly thing to do in a situation that could be a bit awkward.
He does. He gives his counselors a job they did not necessarily want.
It's their fault for speaking up, isn't it?
You win the argument, and therefore you shall go north of the Humber. No, my lord, it's cold.
I think the opening of this speech, I think, is very pointed in the cynical direction, I think.
Mm.
I think there's 3 or 4 points where he massively pulls rank on them. I see no cause. Miss Dean, you've got it wrong. I abide. A kingly dude abides, and my love and my lamb.
Yes,
All of those things could be.
Mm.
all of those plus this is the end.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, I take your faithful hearts, which is nicely mirroring the opening of Eubulus' speech. Your wanted true regard of faithful hearts, and he's the one who's most critical of the scheme, and so he comes straight back with, "I take your faithful heart." It can be loaded, very loaded there. Yeah, so he's feeling much more on the ball now, actually, and I think that's this is pushing in a different direction.
The other thing I noticed, which I didn't do, but I noticed as soon as I said it, that it's something that maybe should have been tried, was you get to the end of a sentence, the travail and the painful cares that hasten age upon the worthiest kings, and presumably he then sees them starting to speak up, and cuts them off with, but lest the fraud, one could try that.
Yeah, I like that. There is a missing word, by the way, about 7 lines up from the bottom. Oh, maybe not more than that. I mean to join to either of my sons. That line is... I have to apologise. I did spend a time going through all of Gorbadoc's speeches, tidying up, and then I seem to have cut and pasted the wrong copy. So all of the work I did has not been actually sent out. So we're still with that. But apart from some odd punctuation, it is that's the only thing I've noticed that's egregious in that scene. Okay, so yeah, we've got pointed, looking up and down the line options there. That but less the fraud to just stop anyone from saying anything clever or something they'll regret. And then give them the job they all really want. You're going to Brussels, people. Greg, would you like to have a crack at this speech as to lead us out of this scene?
Yeah.
Play around with some of those thoughts. Really, really political animal. You've heard this. Some of you know who's sort of for you and who's against you. Lay it down on them. Lay it down on them.
I take your faithful hearts in thankful part, but sith I see no cause to draw my mind, to fear the nature of my loving sons, or to misdeem that envy or disdain. Can there work hate where nature planteth love in one self-purpose? Do I still abide? My love extendeth eagerly to both. My land sufficeth for them both also. Humber shall part the marches of their realms. The southern parts the elder shall possess. The northern shall Porrex the younger rule. In quiet I will pass mine aged days, free from the travail and the painful cares that hasten age upon the worthiest kings. But lest the fraud that you do seem to fear of flattering tongues corrupt their tender youth, and ride them to the ways of youthful lust, to climbing pride, or to revenging hate, or to neglecting of their careful charge, lewdly to live in wanton recklessness, or to the oppressing of the rightful cause, or not to reap the wrongs done to the poor, to tread down truth or favour false deceit. I mean to join either of my sons, one of those whose long approved faith and wisdom tried may well assure my heart, that minding fraud shall find no way to creep into their fenced ears with grave advice. This is the end, and so I pray you all to bear my sons the love and loyalty that I have found within your faithful breasts.
You nor your sons, our sovereign lord, shall want our faith and service while our lives do last. Thank you so very much for sending us off. Yes, I'm just checking to see if anyone in this room gets the gig, and Philander does, but he gets Porrex. I don't think anyone else in this room actually goes to the other one.
No.
Which in production I might change because I quite like the idea that they get busted. I find that interesting. They sent Philander because I don't think he was the most extreme. He was I'd sent Eubulus myself. I think he's the one who he's the most honest. There's a lot more room in there, I think, for more of that actually as well throughout the speech. Or potential points. I mean, I think you could overdo it, but there's a lot there.
I feel I'd want a table. just something to bang maybe once or twice in that speech. Because there is that element of, yes, fine, but just listen. This is what we're going to do. Okay.
Other thoughts about Gorboduc in this first scene overall? Is that there is an arc to him. I think there does seem to be, and there's lots of options we've got here. He could start off slightly unsure, but once he gets into it, he goes further. He could be more or less infirm. We've got all sorts of options. Anyone got a preferred, as it were?
I like the paradox of sorry, I've inhaled a cat hair. I like the paradox of he starts by wanting to give away some of his power, some of his kingship. But he can only assume rule even over this room by asserting his power.
And of course, we might be trying to dig too deep into his psychology. It might be that it's all absolutely on face value. He just wants to do these things. He's asked everyone's advice. He's given some concessions, and that actually all of this is perfectly reasonable. I think that's probably dramatically slightly less exciting, but it might be a fairer reading to the text.
That his purpose is simply to set the plot going, like winding a watch.
Yeah. I think, however, there's more fun to be had this way.
Given that you've got three other characters who know him well, I mean, another way you could take it, or at least make part of the arc, would be inscrutable to the audience, but the advisors know exactly what's going on. So that, what mood he's in or whatever, it might be something that the seasoned court watchers, they know where this is heading, and watching them, we see what he's doing. So it could be sort of literally inscrutable on the level of Gorboduc himself, but not to the other characters. And so that's a further way of doing it.
Yes, this is an active court. I mean, it's also that this scene is definitely the older generation, and we're about to then slip into a scene which is, or two scenes which are much more about the younger generation, the two sons and their mates, as they play on their PlayStations and plot vengeance, the disruption of the kingdom. So let's move into the next scene. The next time we meet Gorboduc, time has passed. We're no longer in Act 1. We've whizzed past Act 2, which is all about the young. And so the two sons basically talk themselves into war with each other. And Act 3, where again also about halfway through Act 3, we've had scenes prior to this. Stuff has been going on. And we all know, as the audience, that let's see, scene 3. It should be Act 3, scene 1. Anyway, that's an error. It's the beginning of Act 3. Anyway, we know from the Dumb Show and Sense of Things that war is occurring, bad things are happening, and one of the sons is going to be dead any second now. So it's all going on, as it were. But at the beginning of the scene, I don't think he knows necessarily. I can't quite remember at the top of my head. I think he just knows war is happening at this stage. So there's other things going on. We have one line that is has been emphasized for emphatic acting in italics. There are occasional lines which have been emphasized for some kind of rhetorical display, but data on that.
That's a Euripides quote, isn't it, from Trojan Women?
I don't know. It could be.
I would gamble on it being so. It's the end line of one of Hecuba's speeches.
Excellent. So doubly performed in that sense. Okay, who hasn't opened with a speech? Have we all opened with a speech now? We back round again? I think we are. So, Stephen, if I could ask you to essay this opening speech of the scene. It's the beginning of the scene. We know bad things are coming.
O cruel fate, so mindful, wrath of gods, whose vengeance neither sinuous strained streams flowing with blood of Trojan princes slain, nor Phrygian fields made rank with corpses dead of Asian kings and lords can yet appease. Nay, slaughter of unhappy Priam's race, nor Ilion's fall made level with the soil can yet suffice. But still continued rage pursue our lives, and from the farthest seas doth chase the issues of destroyed Troy. Oh, no man happy till his end be seen. If any flowing wealth or seeming joy in present years might make a happy wight, happy was Hecuba, the woefullest wretch that ever lived to make a mirror of, and happy Priam, with his noble sons, and happy I, till now, alas, I see and feel my most unhappy wretchedness. Behold, my lords, read ye this letter here. Lo, it contains the ruin of our realm. Timely speed provide not hasty help. Yet, O ye gods, if ever woeful king might move ye, King of kings, wreak it on me and on my sons, not on this guiltless realm. Send down your wasting flames from wrathful skies to wreathe me and my sons the hateful breath. Read, my lords, this is the matter why I called ye now to have your good advice.
Some interesting calls out there before we get to the letter. It seems reasonable enough for me. The king says, unhappy thing, wreak wrath or whatever on me. I'm the king, not on my guiltless realm. It's interesting on my sons as well. He's happy to go for the sons as well. But not harm his country. So good solid patriotic duty there to his people. This is the real Trojan sequence, isn't it? Really, really layering in. I don't think in the rest of the play really does as anywhere near as much. I think there's a few references, but nothing really quite as detailed. Other thoughts, Liza? Any thoughts on Gorboduc and his emphasis and his speech? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes I'm best off muted. But yeah, I do like the emphasis on "Oh, no man happy till his end be seen," and that was very beautifully read. Yeah, and then after that you get the rhetorical repetition of happy, 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 happy Hecuba, happy Priam, happy I. So, and they were all, Hecuba and Priam were quite happy until something terrible happened to them.
Yes, in that case it was a horse, and in this case it's a letter.
Yes, it would be nice to have a horse, but a bit expensive to bring one on stage, I feel.
Yeah.
And then And then the prayer starts, and that requires, I guess, a slightly different color, a different emphasis, a different rhythm. O ye gods, kings of kings. Now, that's an interesting sort of Christian-sounding phrase, king of kings. Are we sure? And we're sure it's kings plural? I guess gods then, kings of kings.
I will check. I'm fairly certain that we're now into a section where it is accurate. Yes, king of kings. Kings of kings, yes. Kings
of kings, plural. Okay. So then he finishes his prayer, and only then does he start talking about the letter. Presumably he's had the letter when he came on, but just in those two last lines, has he had it in his hand this whole time? Does he take it out of his inward pocket or next his bosom?
Well, it's interesting because he mentions it slightly earlier. He says, "Behold this letter," and then goes off on his tangent, and then he comes back to the letter. So yes, he seems to be there, and maybe nobody else is getting a word in edgeways of going, what's wrong? This is we can't read that.
I had totally missed that. Yes, you're right. He refers to the letter earlier on, and then he says, it contains the ruin of our realm if timely speed provide not hasty help, and then he takes time out for a prayer, and then he comes back to the letter.
Yeah.
We have to get this done, but hang on. Oh, God.
It's and it opens the scene with a bang as well. He's coming in I mean, it doesn't have to be a fast-paced speech per se, but it's got to be, it's got to be full of emotion, and everything's falling apart. And in his mind, he's done everything right and everything's fine. Let's. Liza, could you give that one an essay as well again, and really play around with that sense? You've got a letter, you've just received the bad news, you don't quite know where you're going with it, so you obviously, and we're all in the room going, trying to get some sense of what's going on. So maybe we should interfere, might throw in the odd "my lord." See if we can get a reaction out of you.
Oh, feel free.
Yeah, let's try that.
O cruel fates, O mindful wrath of gods, whose vengeance neither Simo is strained, streams flowing with blood of Trojan princes slain, nor Phrygian fields made rank with corpses dead of Asian kings and lords can yet appease.
My lord,
Nay, slaughter of unhappy Priam's race, nor Ilium's fall made level with the soil can yet suffice, but still continued rage pursue our lives, and from the farthest seas doth chase the issues of destroyed Troy. Oh, no man happy till his end be seen. If any flowing wealth and seeming joy in present years might make a happy wight, happy was Hecuba, the woefulest wretch that ever lived to make a mirror of, and happy Priam with his noble sons, and happy I till now. Alas, I see and feel my most unhappy wretchedness. Behold, my lords, read ye this letter here. Lo, it contains the ruin of our realm, if timely speed provide not hasty help. Yet, O ye gods, if ever woeful king might move ye, kings of kings, wreak it on me, and on my sons, not on this guiltless realm. Send down your wasting flames from wrathful skies, to reave me and my sons the hateful breath. Read, my lords, this is the matter why I called ye now to have your good advice.
Yes, and that's why we're having the meeting. You've called them here. And it's just like, yeah, give us a route in, guys. I mean, I don't think we would go anywhere near as far as throwing in the "my lords," but there might be something physical. If he's moving around, and there's that thing of. How out of control is Gorboduc during this scene?
I couldn't help thinking of that downfall video.
Yes.
Okay, everyone who thinks Porex is a nice guy, leave the room.
Yes.
And his mum.
Yeah. Yes, so there they get the letter just saying everything's going very, very, very badly, and then we get various sort of random lines from Gorboduc as he gets news. So we get the entrance of Philander coming up. Greg, if you could just read the random lines of Gorboduc. We're not going to try and act this per se. We'll just sort of skip along. So, what meaneth this? Lo, yonder comes in haste Philander from my lord, your youngest son.
Oh, the gods send joyful news.
Ah, the mighty Jove preserve your majesty, O noble king.
Philander, welcome. How doth my son?
Your son, sir, lives, and healthy I am left, but yet, O king, this want of lustful health could not be half so griefful to your grace as these most wretched tidings that I bring.
Oh, heavens, yet more, no end of woes to me.
Tinder, oh, king, come lately from the yes, etc. And additional stuff occurs and explain that there's war going on. So it's all woe to Gorboduc, isn't it? It's exposition. It's just straightforward. Is there news? Is it good? I want it to be good. And then Philander delivers good. Well, I wouldn't say good stuff. There's war. There's war happening. Okay, Gorboduc continue. Are they in arms? Let's read that speech and see what we get.
Are they in arms? Would he not send for me? Is this the honour of a father's name? In vain we travail to assuage their minds as if their hearts, whom neither brothers love, nor fathers awe, nor kingdoms care, can move. Our counsels could withdraw from raging heat. Jove slay them both and end the cursed line. For though perhaps fear of such mighty force as I, my lords, joined with your noble aids, may yet raise, shall repent their present heat. Their secret grudge and malice will remain. The fire, not quenched, but kept in close restraint, fed still within, breaks forth with double flame. Their death and mine must appease the angry gods.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm noticing an awful lot of me and my's in what Gorboduc's talking about. But then, it's Jove slain them both. He's quite happy to sacrifice his sons in extreme moments, isn't he? He keeps talking about they can die so the realm survives.
That is huge. A father wishing his son's death. That would be a curse in early modern terms, wouldn't it?
Yeah, end the cursed line as well. I mean, it's it's extreme. It's really extreme. Following on from that mood as the scene opened with him, in that rage, and the situation just got slightly worse. Philander comes in and says, well, they were talking about war, and then Philander comes in and says, well, they're at war, and we know. Next stage, even worse. He's going to get his wish, or at least 50% of it. Other thoughts about Gorboduc from that piece of evidence? Would he not send for me?
I feel the passion in that for the first time. More. And I mean the end, the cursed line was just wonderful. That Jove slay them both was really so hard to read, in fact, because he's just given up almost.
Well, he's talking about his own death as well at the final line. Their death and mine must appease the angry gods. There is a sense that they know it's all the jig is up, even at this early stage. Well, I say early stage, but halfway stage in the play.
Well, Philander then sounds the note of, Gorboduc is he's not as in control as he was in scene one. If indeed he was in control in scene one, that he's surrendering more to his emotions. He's skipped straight to wanting to die, wanting his sons to die and wanting himself to die. And Philander comes in with hang on. You're actually lucky that your sons are at war within your lifetime while you can still do something about it.
Yes, good argument.
Yeah,
Good argument, Philander. We'll buy that one. Yeah, it
It's
is
a learning opportunity for him.
Yes. Yeah, it is such an extreme reaction, isn't it? Connecting that. I mean, this is the thing about this play is it's a series of snapshots. It's not like there's a through line necessarily between the Gorboduc we met in the first line and this line. He doesn't feel like a fundamentally different person, but there's such a scope has happened between those two scenes. Keeping it connected, but also showing that time difference. He's hoping to turn it around. As I, my lords, joined with your noble aids, may yet raise shall repent their present heat. It's more that they'll just cauterize the wound, isn't it?
This is the thing. He could, he and an army could interpose between them, but can he stop them hating each other? It's the eternal problem, really, in politics, very relevant to today.
Yes, once you've opened that particular valve, it's quite difficult to shut it all off.
I think Troy is doing a lot of work here, isn't it? I mean, that's just really kind of ramped it up. The mental world of Gorboduc is quite a shortage of kind of kittens and bunnies, more kind of topless towers, slaughter, families, and it just, that kind of mindset just kind of balloons in this scene, I think. And he's seeing everything through this kind of prism, or whatever you want to call it, Troy-coloured spectacles, and that then gives energy to his sense of fatalism. There's no way you can sort of argue against what's happening with Troy. It's futile, so you might as well just kind of rage. So I mean, I wonder if, for an early modern audience, really it's just a button that you can, press button mark Troy, and immediately the thing gets turbocharged.
The whole play is sort of redolent of doom throughout. There's very few scenes that aren't just playing this big timpani in the background of just doom, 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 doom. It does manage to ramp it up and keep making the doom worse in different ways, and it does manage to do it throughout. It's really interesting in that sense.
Well, Gorboduc keeps having to be stopped from defeating himself, from undoing himself. So, is there an invading enemy? I don't think there is. It's this is a kingdom defeating itself.
Okay, we've got only one more short speech here. Stephen, if you can do the speech, I'll give you the lead in to give you the emotional input. So a messenger turns up with more news. Everything's getting better. O king, the greatest grief that ever prince did hear, that ever woeful messenger did tell, that ever wretched land hath seen before, I bring to you. Porrex, your younger son, with sudden force invaded hath the land, that you to Ferrex did allot to rule, and with his own most bloody hand he hath his brother slain, and doth possess his realm.
Oh, heavens, send down the flames of your revenge! Destroy, I say, with flash of rakeful fire the traitor son, and then the wretched sire. Well, let us go, yet perhaps I may die with revenge, and appease the hateful gods.
Yeah, there's more interesting things there. I really like that. It's the way the Nuntius comes on and basically repeats what everyone's already said until the final bit, and he's really probably not very keen on giving his message. But yeah, it's the traitor son and then the wretched sire, and we might appease the gods. If we can't appease the gods, we're all doomed. You know, whatever you did to upset the gods, you need to sort out. And that's a really important mindset, I think, for these characters as well. You know, this is definitely, not a Christian world. There's something very barbaric going on here is in the mindset. I think that's the idea.
It's a bit Faustus-y, isn't it? He's kind of going, look, I don't care if you kill me, I just want you to kill him first. He's in the bargaining phase.
Yes. Yes, he's only got one more scene to see. We can make it worse. We can still make it worse. Any additional thoughts before we go to the final scene of Gorboduc? Or himself, not of the play. The play survives the death of its lead character, like, seasons 3 and 4 of Blake 7. It's Taggart. Think of Goubadok as Taggart.
But hang on, Blake isn't dead. He just disappears.
He just disappears. Well, depending on whether you want to go with season D as canonical. If you want to go with season 3, then he's dead. Sorry, we should stop doing this. Okay, so Act 4. What we've had in between is we've had a chorus. We've had a dumb show. We've had Videnna being very cross, saying that she's going to murder the other child, and bad things are going to be going on. So this is not good times. Liza, if I could ask you to read Gorboduc, we'll read this little passage on with. We're doing some characters as well. So Greg, if you could do Arostus, and Stephen, if you could do Eubulus, and we'll just run this little sectionette until Porrex.
We marvel much whereto this lingering stay falls out so long. Porrex unto our court by order of our letters is returned, and Eubulus received from us behest at his arrival here to give him charge before our presence straight to make repair, and yet we have no word whereof he stays.
Greg?
Sorry, lost it. I've lost it completely. Sorry, guys.
Act 4, Scene 2.
No, I was on the wrong. I'd gone back to the original.
I have the original open too.
It doesn't help that I was on that, not on this. Lo, where he comes, and Eubulus with him.
According to your highness has to me, here have I Porrex brought, even in such sort as from his wearied horse he did alight, for that your grace did will such haste therein.
We like and praise this speedy will in you, to work the thing that to your charge we gave. Porrex, if we so far should swerve from kind, and from those bounds which law of nature sets, as thou hast done, by vile and wretched deed in cruel murder of thy brother's life, our present hand could stay no longer time, but straight should bathe this blade in blood of thee, as just revenge of thy detested crime. No, we should not offend the law of kind. If now this sword of ours did slay thee here. Wait, that was rubbish. Let me do that again. No, we should not offend the law of kind if now this sword of ours did slay thee here, for thou hast murdered him whose heinous death even nature's force doth move us to revenge by blood again. But justice forceth us to measure death for death, thy due desert. Yet sithens thou art our child, and sith as yet in this hard case, what word thou canst allege for thy defense by us have not been heard, we are content to say our will for that which justice bids us presently to work, and give thee leave to use thy speech at full, if thou have aught to lay for thy excuse.
Okay, and that sets Porrex up to speak. Lots of interesting things there. This is holding swordy, killing sunny moment, isn't it?
Lord, I am so sorry. I read that so poorly, and I had no sense of where the turning points were. I do apologize.
Yeah, no, it's a cold read, and we're just starting to unpack it all. But yeah, it's such a physical act, It's like he's just pulled out a dagger and he's holding it to his son's throat. This blade, this sword of ours, and he has to force himself not to just kill him there and then. There's something, very primal about this. I mean, it's quite interesting. The opening dialogue, Gorbadok's opening is really good exposition, actually. Those first sort of 6-7 lines, just going, why hasn't the thing that this scene is all about happened yet? And yet it's disguised very nicely in his sort of anger and again, impatience. Impatience perhaps is better sense.
Well, if it sets up the confrontation between him and Porrex, having him in an extremely short-tempered mood makes it more suspenseful as to what he's going to do.
Yeah. We're starting to get a sense of Gorboduc on a hair trigger here, isn't he? What is he going to do? As everything just increasingly, because we're at 4, things aren't getting better. And we've just had that terrifying speech from Videnna. We know what's going to happen. We know that Porrex is about to die, but here he comes, and he's going to die. Maybe he's going to die a different way. No, he's not. We know how he's going to die. So in a sense, there's a question of how much tension can you get out of this scene with Gorboduc, because we know he's not going to kill him. Which is interesting. But he gives him a chance. He gives him 2 chances, actually. Porrex gets 2 speeches. Other thoughts?
It's complicated. It's more complicated than it looked to me. This whole thing about nature versus justice and the law of kind and swerving from kind. This kind of it's considering the state he's in. It seems to be it's very intellectualized in a sense. He's sort of, if we should do this, and then you get about sort of 8 lines with that, and then, we wouldn't actually be offending the law of kind, would we? Because you've offended the law of kind, haven't you? Oh, yes. Wait a minute, justice? You see what I mean?
I think the but before but justice, and this is something I totally failed to get while I read it, but the but before but justice isn't a contrary but, it's an Elizabethan only, as in it is but justice. So, but justice only justice. It's only justice to measure death for death, which you deserve.
Yeah.
And then we have a yet.
Yeah.
That's the turn.
That's the turn. Yeah, I think you're right. It may be a beat with the, before, but yeah, the yet is the turning, isn't it? I mean, but that doesn't feel like a sudden turning of paternalistic love or anything there. It's just, but Sivens, thou art our child. No, but I shouldn't kill my own child. It doesn't feel actually like he's suddenly feeling emotion for this child at all.
Well, is it something to do with this sort of sense of, you've got no idea when you're going to displease the gods. So, you better watch out in case you've just misstepped here. So,
Going back to Abraham and Isaac from yesterday.
let's give him a chance, because he is my child. And there is that kind thing.
Also, that there are other people in the room. There's also, if the king goes mad and starts hacking his son in front of his entire royal court, that's not a good move. It's not a good look. And we don't know what the other agents in the room are doing at this time either. There might be a staying hand, maybe not a forceful one, but maybe just a hand on the shoulder, and just remember where you are. I mean, it is wearing elements of its sort of Inns of Court genesis there, but it's wearing it relatively lightly. I think it's still working as drama. Okay, Porrex gets a massive speech, which basically says, "I don't deny it. You know, stuff happens." I think that might be an oversimplification, but stuff happens. Which gives basically gives Goubadok a reason to say these lines. Greg, if you'll just give us these lines, please.
Sorry. Invader wretch, thou showest a woeful heart. Felix now lies in grave, slain by thy hand.
So, being a bit sad isn't enough because you killed him, and that gives Porrex his chance to actually try and justify himself. And it would be fair to say I don't think it works. I think it would be fair to say that. Stephen, will you give us "O Cruel Right," please?
Oh, right. Could any cause prevail to make thee stain thy hands with brother's blood? What of thee we will resolve to do shall yet remain unknown. Thou, in the mean, shalt from our royal presence banished be, until our princely pleasure further shall to thee be shown. Depart, therefore, our sight, accursed child. What cruel destiny, what forward fate hath sorted us this chance, that even in those where we should comfort find, where our delight now in our aged days should rest and be, even there our only grief and deepest sorrows to abridge our life, most pining cares and deadly thoughts to grow.
So yes, Porrex presumably exits after accursed child. Should be froward fate rather than forward fate. My bad. That will now be corrected for the next draft. So yeah, it doesn't work. I think Porrex's defense is not good enough. Thoughts? Because he can't justify himself. Basically, there is no defense. You know, it doesn't matter what Porrex says. You know, you killed your brother, therefore you are guilty. You are doomed. He doesn't say he's going to kill him or anything yet. He's just going to be banished. Yeah, just banished.
Yeah, it's a bit more introspective, isn't it? It's kind of, you know, it's not this kind of, you know, law of nature versus justice, Clash of Titans thing anymore, is it? It's just, look, all I wanted was a decent retirement, you know, a party, you know, maybe a cake, you know, and what I've got is this, you know, it's the second half of that. It sounds kind of like an old man, you know.
Mm.
You know, he's done what needs to be done. He's done the ruling stuff, but there's still the family stuff.
Mm.
You know, they should have been my comfort, and here I am.
An absence of cake is a tragedy, really.
Mm.
Yeah.
Whereas it was starting to you know, it's like whatever character says in the opening of a film. You know, I'm retired. I'm 2 days from retirement, and you know they're immediately going to get shot. It's that sort of feeling. Yeah, it's our delight now. Where should it be?
It's quite a balanced speech, isn't it? I mean, it sort of hinges in the middle like that, doesn't it? Really.
Mm. Well, you've
So
got the exit of Porrex, which is inferred. So, you know, after accursed child, there could be quite a lengthy pause there while, you know, he does the walk of shame. And to really pull to that second half of the speech together.
You could get a really nice contrast, couldn't you? Where he kind of just keeps it together to king it a bit, and then when he's gone, it's collapse. You know.
Yeah, because there is that thing. You know, maybe we haven't really detected much love for his son in any of this, but maybe that doesn't mean it's not there, and it's not something that can be played here. You know, the moment he's gone, he goes that internal line of, you know, he's never going to see his sons again. one way or another. Who's going to take over now? So we have a shortish little bit to the end of the scene left to go. So if we'll just all take a little step. So I'll ask Liza if you can be Marcella. We'll stick with Stephen as Gorboduc, and Greg, if you could do Arostus, and we'll do Arostus's relatively long speech there, and I'll read Eubulus later, as it were. So Sun's gone, Gorbodoc's very sad. Arostus, try and cheer him up. Go on.
Your grace should now in these grave years of yours have found ere this the price of mortal joys. How short they be, how fading here in earth, how full of change, how brittle our estate, of nothing sure, save only of the death. To whom both man and all the world doth owe their end at last, neither shall nature's power in other sort against your heart prevail, than as the naked hand whose stroke assays the armed breast, where force doth light in vain.
Many can yield right grave and sage advice of patient spirit to others, wrapped in woe, and can in speech both rule and conquer kind, who, if by proof they might feel nature's force, would show themselves men as they are indeed, which now will needs be gods. But what doth mean the sorry cheer of her that here doth come?
Oh, where is Ruth? Oh, where is pity now? Whither is gentle heart and mercy fled? Are they exiled out of our stony breasts, never to make return? Is all the world drowned in blood and sunk in cruelty? If not in women mercy may be found, if not, alas, within the mother's breast, to her own child, to her own flesh and blood. If Ruth be banished thence, if pity there may have no place, if there no gentle heart do live and dwell, where should we seek it then?
Madame, alas, what means your woeful tale?
Oh, silly woman, I! Why to this hour have kind and fortune thus deferred my breath, that I should live to see this doleful day? Will every wight believe that such hard heart could rest within the cruel mother's breast, with her own hand to slay her only son? But out, alas, these eyes beheld the same. They saw the dreary sight, and are become most ruthful records of the bloody fact. Poor Exilas is by his mother slain, and with her hand, a woeful thing to tell, while slumbering on his careful bed he rests, his heart stabbed in with knife, is bereft of life.
O Eubulus, draw this sword of ours and pierce this heart with speed. O hateful light, O loathsome life, O sweet and welcome death. Dear Eubulus, work this, we thee beseech.
Patience, your grace. Perhaps he liveth yet, with wound received, but not of certain death.
O let us then repair unto the place, and see if Porrex live, or thus be slain.
Alas, he liveth not. It is too true that with these
it's all right,
eyes...
they've gone.
No, sorry, he's dead.
That's probably to their retreating backs. We don't have a definite confirmation that they leave at that moment, but it may, how precisely that moment works. But yeah, again, we've got the same business with the sword. Draw it for me. He doesn't have the will. He doesn't have the energy. Is he sitting in a throne, or is he just standing there, just lost? It's a very effective. I mean, Marcella's a really nice little cameo role. I say cameo role. They're all cameo roles, weirdly. So many of these parts are in Goubadok. But yeah, it's another one of, just this encroaching doom as she comes on, and just it keeps unwinding the doom, and you kind of know where it's going, or the audience knows where it's going. But Gorboduc, you can, sense. I love the way he responds to Arostus. We've just, anyone can say advice stuff. You don't have to live through it. It doesn't help. It might be perfectly good advice, but what is it to this? And conquering kind again. Kind is a concept we really need to sort of nail down a bit more as well. Play around with.
Arostus is so snotty. Really, it's just like, well, I would have thought by now, my liege, have found ere this, Brickle Estate, and it's a brilliant comeback to him. Actually, it's the first line of Gorboduc. First bit of Gorboduc I've read where I actually thought, this is, not a word wasted, and it's just pure kind of character stuff. I really, really like those lines.
Well, it's interesting, of course, we have transitioned to the other author as well.
Right.
So I don't know if that's an element of that. They do have slightly different writing styles, but I think the second half is perhaps more emotive, speech heavy in a way that the first half I don't think is. There's something about those set piece speeches with Videnna and Marcello as well. They really get the emotion out, and I think that's a calling card for author number 2, please. And he's just stuffed, really, isn't he? And he turns to Eubulus, who is shall we say, the wise counselor. I mean, it'd be excessive to call him the wise counselor, but he's as close to a wise counselor as this play gives us. I don't know if Arostus is the stupid character, but counselor. But
Arostus is loyal, I think, is what he is.
Yeah. Oh yes, because we were talking about the meanings of their names as well. Yeah, that was something which we'll get into when we actually do the debate sequences. But yeah, he's the one who agrees with Gorboduc at the beginning. I think he's the one who's the most chimes. But that's for another day. Other thoughts about Gorbodoc's final moments? We don't see him again. He dies off stage. I don't think you even see it you may see it in the dumb show. The dumb show might be War. I think the 5th dumb show is War. So we can stage his death if we want. We can do that. We have the technology.
So he, I forget what actually happens. He tells Eubulus to draw his sword and kill him. Did Eubulus, next time we see him, did Eubulus in fact do that?
I don't think he does. I think he just dies.
Broken-hearted?
Yeah, I think it's more the. I don't think it actually states precisely anywhere how he dies. I think just the people kill him. So the dumb show that follows this, first the drums and flutes begin to sound. Armed men process across the stage several times. Hereby signified rebellions, arms, and civil wars that followed as fell in the realm of Great Britain, which by the space of 50 years or more continued in civil war between the nobility after the death of King Gorboduc. I will check to see whether the history gives us a definitive answer. No, he just departs this world. So maybe he does kill himself. Maybe he does. We can. I think that's possibly a production decision. There may be a hint later on that we've missed. Last time we read it, a few months ago now. Doesn't time fly? So across the play, we've done the 3 scenes with Goubadok and those sense of 3 flashes of light on a character. I don't know if we got a handle on the first one. There were there's production decisions to make about that, but that sense of someone crowded in with problems in that second scene. These ongoing, continuing problems, this rage that's building in him, and this one where he contains his rage and he gives, and he sort of just crumples. I think he just crumples once he sends the son off, and then he's just totally crushed when he hears out that he's just been murdered by his wife. You know, he didn't kill his son, but his wife did, and his wife presumably is you know.
Does he manage to kill Vedena before he dies, or is it just that?
Again, no data. No data is available. He doesn't say he's going to kill her, does he?
He doesn't, but according to the law of kind, that would be the next thing, to revenge your son's death on the murderer, who happens to be your wife, but it's somehow more okay to kill someone who's not your child. In the hierarchy of this kind of macho vendetta thing, women are pretty much disposable.
It is interesting. We do have effectively a domino, you know, familiar side, or however you want to call it. You know, the family is killing itself one by one. So, you know, one son kills another, the mother then kills the son. It would be fitting if Gorboduc kills her and then kills himself. You know, that would be the logic of this sort of process. Just to make this even more cheerful.
I quite like it not being tied up like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you know, it's sort of, it's in a sense, it's satisfying not to give us that sort of closure. You know, this is a different kind of devastation.
Yeah, because it's all about the chaos.
Yeah, not even the law of kind is operating properly. You know.
Well, especially if the audience is Christian, so you know, to some degree, they wouldn't want things to be neat and tidy because that would look like a guiding hand of the gods or something.
Yes, and Vedena is so extra. You would think she would never consent to die off stage.
No, I mean, it is one of those plays that just has so much potential of the stuff that happens around the stuff we see. There's so much potential here. And that's why I see this in so many different forms. I mean, this is the thing, I see it as a stage play, I see it as an audio thing, I see it as a video thing, I see it as all the things, and they'd be fundamentally different productions because of the potential of what you add or take away from this text. But yeah, we've got a journey here. Gorboduc has a journey as a character, which I think has a nice shape to it, and lots of potential, lots of decisions. Any final thoughts on Gorboduc himself? Nothing from Greg, nothing from Stephen, anything from Liza?
One tiny thing, that he doesn't seem to explicitly blame himself for the death of both his sons, but I think it must be in his head and his heart that he caused it by giving them too much power too early. That may be an impulse behind why he's suicidal right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, isn't it? He never sort of takes on. It all follows from his decisions. And his decision to split the kingdom is why this all happens. And yet he never owns that at all, does he?
No, true.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. But no, really lovely point to close on. We will be doing more sessions on Gorboduc as we continue sort of working our way, picking apart some of the characters, trying to make some future decisions. We're in no hurry to produce this. We may get into a hurry later on, but at the moment, we're still idly picking our way through the possibilities of Goubadok. If you're interested in seeing more or hearing more of Goubadok, do get in touch. We are available online. We're on Twitter. There will be links in the show notes, and there may eventually be some kind of official fundraising thing to make productions of this happen further down the line. So do keep an eye on our website, beyondshakespeare.org, where more information hopefully will start trickling out, unless you're watching this from the distant future, in which case it's all already happened, but you can still give us money anyway. And on that cheerful note, thank all the readers for today, and goodbye.
Bye.